Hey guys, how's it going today? And I wanted to give you my spoiler review of Aftermath Life Debt, the second book in the Aftermath trilogy by Chuck Wendig. This book, as I said in the spoiler free review, was much better put together than the first book, um, being simply titled Aftermath. It's not quite as fun of a read because there's not that same sort of spectacle and stuff, which I touched on in the spoiler free review. There's a lot more character growth though, which is why that spoiler free review was so short. Normally these book reviews tend to run 15, 20 minutes long, but it's hard for me to give you guys a real review without spoiling some of the almost every part of this book has some sort of spoiler in it. Uh, Jazz Amari's, again, spoilers, Jazz Amari's conflict within herself on whether or not she wants to be a bounty hunter or whether or not she wants to be a soldier of fortune, or whether or not she wants to, you know, be good for the sake of being good. And Sinjir has the same kind of crisis of conscience. And then you have Temin, who's kind of growing up and kind of he's learning to stop being that 15-year-old whiny kid from the first book, and he's also learning how to be a pilot and all that kind of stuff. Then you've got tons more Han and Leia in this book too. I wasn't too hot on how Chuck Wendig portrayed Leia. Don't take that as I don't like Leia. I love Leia. It's just that I've always gotten this sense from Leia that she has this overriding purpose. No matter what, everything is all about the New Republic and the rebellion. Uh, that's her overriding purpose. She will sacrifice anything to make sure that the New Republic and or the rebellion, depending on where we are in the timeline, is taken care of. That is her job. That is her purpose in life. That is what she is dedicated to completely. And in this book, she kind of doesn't do that. Like it kind of hints towards what she becomes as General Leia in TFA, and where she kind of stops having faith in the New Republic come Bloodline. And like I said, I can get that they were trying to give us this feeling from Leia that she is starting to kind of see how her chaotic good, for anybody that plays D&D, uh sense of self-righteousness, chaotic good being kind of the type of person that would just they do the good thing and they'll worry about the consequences later. And her personality type is starting to not really mesh with a governmental sort of type of position. Being a leader of a movement is different from being a leader of government. And I think that they were starting to try and put those hints in, but like near the end of the book, she straight up like threatens the New Republic and peace talks with the Empire because she wants to save her husband and some Wookiees. Like, I get it. I understand where she was coming from with that, but for me, it's like, why? Why would you threaten something this important to save your husband, especially considering with how obsessed she seems to be in almost every other piece of canonical material, and even in the Legends material, this is her overriding need, is to make sure that the New Republic stays safe, and she doesn't really do that in this book. So it was, like I said, I love the way a character, and I get where they were coming from with it. It just didn't quite mesh with me. It was like, really, Leia, really? Why would she? Okay, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but whatever. The other character I wasn't too hot on was Nora Wexley. She's kind of the leader of this group, and there are some things that just come out of nowhere with her. Like her and Wedge kind of fall in love all of a sudden. her and Wedge Antilles, and I think it was there primarily because her husband gets found 2/3 of the way through this book, 3/4 of the way through this book. And I think that that relationship in between her and Wedge kind of was just kind of like, oh, yeah, well, we need to make sure that she has some sort of conflict with finding her husband. So, bleh. Ta-da! Now she's got to worry about what Wedge thinks and whatever. And it didn't really mesh with me, and it didn't really go anywhere. Like after Brenton, her husband, gets found, Wedge is sad, and they have an awkward conversation, and then it disappears. Um, Again, how I was talking about the false deaths in the spoiler review for Aftermath, those aren't back necessarily, but there are some twists and turns that I saw coming from 17 miles away. Um, Again, this is a spoiler review, so I'm going to go into it where Brenton and all of these other long-term prisoners in this prison ship that's crash landed, this ancient prison ship that has crash landed on Kashyyyk 1,000 years ago, and the Empire repurposed it to become another prison, and uh, all of the prisoners that have been there for an extended period of time have basically been implanted with a chip in their brainstem that overrides them, and then they become killer assassins. And Brenton and all the other freed uh, prisoners basically go nuts and start shooting up this Liberation Day celebration. And I get it. I get where they were coming from, but as soon as I saw, oh well, here's Brenton Wexley, and here's this prison ship, and whatever, especially with what Gallius Rax was doing, and the way he acted, I could totally see that. Oh well, they're just programmed. They're programmed double agents. They don't know what they're doing, but they're gonna go nuts and try and kill Mon Mothma and half of the New Republic leadership and everything. I saw that one coming from, again, a million miles away. Um, let's see here. I just talked about Gallius Rax, so let's concentrate on him. I didn't want to talk about him really at all in the spoiler-free review because he's huge. I know that a lot of fans were disappointed that he wasn't Grand Admiral Thrawn because we were given this enigmatic character near the end of the first book that was a fleet admiral who was dead, and then turns out that Ray Sloan lied about it, and the very last scene is about this fleet admiral. We got no physical description. We got no uh, type of hints. Nothing that said that he wasn't or was Grand Admiral Thrawn. Um, and some people were pretty disappointed that it wasn't Thrawn. Uh, I was a little bit disappointed, but I'm really enjoying this Gallius Rex character in that every single time he's on the page, or really on the chapter that I'm listening to, he. I hate him. I want to reach through the headphone earbud thing that I've got stuffed into my ear and strangle him because he's just so. Oh, you're such a conniving little imperial. And that's a good thing. That's what a good bad guy does. Is he makes you upset with them all the time, and that's exactly how I felt with this character. Let's see here. What else? We'll talk about Ray Sloan. I loved Ray Sloan throughout this entire book. She's finding out how deeply she's getting played by this Gallius Rax character, and she's getting more and more frustrated. And near the end of the book, she straight up goes on a crusade. Her and Brenton Wexley, who are both pretty pissed off with him for very different reasons, end up going to Jakku at the very end of the book to figure out where this guy comes from. Um, and then it really sets up this whole Battle of Jakku thing that happens a year after Return of the Jedi. Let's see here. What else was there? There were some characters that I wasn't too hot on Wedge because he pretty much served as just a something to throw a wrench into Nora's storyline, which I wasn't too big on. Um, let's see here. I'm frustrated that I can't find any images of the new Republic's capital ship, like this new all Republic built capital ship, the Starhawks. I can't find any pictures of it or anything, so I'm hoping that we get to see like one or two of those that survived the Star Killer attack in TFA, because they sound really cool. Something about an axe blade um, slicing through space, and I love the idea of that. I'm hoping that they don't look like the Republic cruisers from Tor, because those just don't make much sense. I mean, I get how like Admiral Radiss's ship in Rogue One, that doesn't really make much sense, but in a militaristic standpoint, you don't want the command center to be on the spire all the way down at the bottom of the ship. But it was a cruise liner before they turned it into what it was. So it turned it into a warship. So it makes sense that they didn't, that it doesn't make any militaristic sense to have this command thing like all the way down at the bottom of the ship and completely exposed. Um, so as long as it makes sense militaristically to not have the bridge somewhere that's really overexposed or whatever. Um, and I'm hoping that these Starhawks are really military ships. They were purpose built to be military ships. Speaking of ships, wow, this is going to go a lot longer than I expected it to. But anyways, speaking of ships, the Eclipse is recanonized. We at least know that there was a Super Star Destroyer that was um, Palpatine's personal ship, and it was a Super Star Destroyer, and it disappeared. Although the way that it disappeared is kind of strange. We know that there were 13 Super Star Destroyers in service. Um, we know that the Ravager is still a thing under the control of Gallius Rax. We know that the Eclipse kind of disappeared. We don't know where it disappeared to or how it disappeared. So maybe we might end up seeing that either at the Battle of Jakku or um, in The Last Jedi. My God, if we can get a space battle, like a really good space battle in The Last Jedi, I will be so excited. um, Also, we know that 25% of the standard Star Destroyer fleet kind of just disappeared. We have no idea where it went to. So Gallius Rax it looks like he's bringing all of these forces together at Jakku. And we know that the Battle of Jakku hasn't happened yet, so we're guessing that this is going to be the Battle of Jakku type thing. And the end of the book kind of comes to this finish where Nora and Jazz and Sinjir and not Jalm. Jalm isn't going anywhere. And Temin are all going after Rey Sloane, and Rey Sloane and Brenton are going after Rax, and Rax is pulling strings and everything. And I'm really interested to see where all of this goes. I like the whole this person is chasing this person and this person is chasing this person and this person is chasing this person for this reason, and I'm really excited to hear about all of that. I guess final last random bit is definitely going to be there's lots of digging metaphors, like Gallius Rax is some sort of fossil, and there's lots of excavating things being used. So there's definitely going to be something that gets unearthed at Jakku, whether or not that's Snoke, whether or not that's kind of this map to Rakata Prime, which is shown in the TFA Visual Dictionary, whatever it is. I'm excited to see where it's coming from. This whole new trilogy era, the sequel trilogy saga is just, I'm so excited for every single bit of it. I'm so ready for The Last Jedi to come out. I'm so ready to listen to Empire's End in 10 days time. I'm so ready to learn about where everything's going. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of how I feel about this book. It's definitely better than Aftermath, the first book, and I would highly recommend it. Again, as an Audible book, there was a couple of issues with it, like there's like this point where they play Leia's theme at a completely inopportune moment where Leia has nothing to do with it, and it's completely random to have Leia's theme playing there. but the audiobook is still much better because you still get that same uh, third person present tense style of writing that has that very frantic pacing that Chuck Wendig is famous for or infamous for, depending on how you feel about it. Yeah, so I would highly recommend this. I would love to have a conversation with you guys about all the tiny little things. Like, I didn't even talk about the interludes. My goodness, Malakili and or Malakili, however you want to pronounce it. You know, the Rancor Keeper from Return of the Jedi. He shows up. There's more stuff about the Acolytes of the Beyond. Um, oh, and I'm looking forward to seeing those interlude trilogies because each interlude, some of the interludes from Aftermath kind of get a sort of spiritual sequel in Life Debt. So I'm hoping that they get a wrap up kind of a thing in Empire's End. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, anyways, if you guys want to have a conversation with me about that, you can either leave a comment down below. I will happily have a conversation with you guys down there. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at the links down below. Also, probably the best place to get a hold of me is on the Twitch streams every Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time here in the United States. Right now, we're playing through the Tor, not the Old Republic MMO main storylines. I think right now we're on the Smuggler. So I will happily see you guys there. And as always, may the force be with you.